at your own risk thing. Like, I'm afraid if your roster is like 98 seniors and 98 graduates and like 2 people who are actually still at the university, they could print it themselves and say you don't have enough members on registration. That's the only thing I worry about with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like slow rolling starting because people are obviously trickling in. But I'll get to the slides now. We're going to have a lot of club updates. There's a lot of things happening. If anybody wants them, I was talking to like a potential partner for the club or whatever, Grim. We have stickers, so if you want a laptop sticker, go crazy. I probably should have given it basic because there's like twice as many people in that room.
I think Grim had a like IoT CTF at DEF CON.
Yeah, they did that. They like sponsored classes at DEF CON. The short version is they basically want to do like a monthly CTF that people can join, and it's beginner friendly. And like in theory, if we're partnering to a degree, which we got, I still have to talk to the rest of Exec about this. This meeting was literally an hour ago. If like the proper people, if people place really well, they could send you to like DEF CON or ShmooCon. That's like totally on the table. DEF CON's Vegas. They do have in their paperwork that they're not going to send anybody to DEF CON if they're under 21. But also ShmooCon's in DC. Yeah. Like, that's pending. I don't want to get too into it. We're going to go over, if you didn't already see, weird problems, specifically in the forensics category, because we have a lot of pending RE, reverse engineering talk, and on our schedule, so I don't want to go over stuff we're going to go over 2 meetings from now. CSAW is literally this weekend. If you want to compete, we're going to talk about it in Slack. It's online, but I do have a room for like 8 people in Fenwick. It's going to be up for like 5 hours on Saturday. It's like 1 to 5 or something, which I think might be 4. I'm bad at math. That is 4. But yeah. All right, cool. So, advanced track, weird forensics. We're going to go over some weirdish problems. Upcoming CTFs. Capital One is doing a war game.
Sorry, I think it's the wrong one.
Are you
Yeah,
going to basic?
Definitely basic, yeah.
Go to room
I
G.
saw the, my bad.
No, it's all good. That happens. That happened to 2 people last time, but they just doubled down and just stayed there. And I was like, all right.
And then ask questions.
Yeah. Well, one of them was like, yeah, this is an assignment. What are your goals in life? And I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, so 2 major ones coming up, but there's all kinds of stuff going on. Capital One is, I believe, October 3rd. It's Tuesday. They're doing an in-person war game type thing at their compound, their headquarters. And it's at night. So if you have a Tuesday night class, don't hedge your bets on it. But I just got confirmation today. It's definitely not too late for me to send people their way. And yeah, it's a war game, and they're also touring their ops center. If nothing else, it's probably decent networking if you're at all interested in talking to Capital. CSAW, online, fun. It's part of Cybersecurity Awareness Week, which is low-key in like November for them, but sure, why not do something in September? It's a lot of fun. There's no member limit on the actual team. Heaven forbid we got like top 5 or whatever it is, and we're going to finals. There is a limit. Like they'll say, okay, bring 5 people, but for the time being, no member limit. Anybody's welcome. That'll be discussed in Slack in the CTF Watch channel. Club updates, we have a ton of stuff. We dramatically updated our site. There's actual information on it. And Amar was nice enough to like basically give us the whole template set up with the design. New logo, which I haven't shown yet. Rooms are confirmed, so if anybody's like, you don't have this room, or we're switching around or something, no, we have it like on paper each individual day, each individual room we're set. Most of our talks are confirmed. Your G number is now on screen, congratulations. Most of the talks are confirmed. A couple guest people who were just like, oh, we'll see. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but all right. But other than that, we're pretty much confirmed on what we're going to do. Paul's running basic, I'm running advanced, so if you want to do something with basic, talk to Paul. If you want to do something with advanced, talk to me. If you do the opposite, we're just going to direct you to the other person. We are getting guests, tentative, super tentative. I know Chuck's doing, not really tentative, Chuck is doing a hardware talk, if you've met Chuck before. He's our competitions officer in the club. It's gonna be, if you're familiar with JTAG and all that, it's gonna be that kind of fun stuff. I don't know how hands-on it's gonna be, but like, it was.
He's just gonna describe it.
Is he?
Yeah.
Because originally it was literally like, all right, who is a soldering setup? And then we were like, can we bring this into a room? And it was like a lot of hypotheticals.
Yeah.
But I think the router he had, like he opened it up and it was already JTAG'd. So I think that's why it's not gonna be that. Yeah.
It also probably be pretty dangerous to just get people soldering in here too.
But like, here's the thing, there's no like checkbox when you register a room saying like, don't solder in the room. So
It's okay.
It
to
happens.
light everything on fire.
if there is actually, I think there might be a checkbox that says, will there be fire? There's a checkbox that says helium balloons, but there's not a checkbox that says, will there be fire? I feel like that's because will there be fire is kind of implied, but whatever, we're good.
That's
um,
fun.
Chuck Hardware Talk. Chris was nice enough to agree to a couple later on in the, I think 3 tentatively, later on in the season. Definitely second half, I think. We're in talks with Patel about sponsorship. I think like it's pretty good progress wise,
Yeah, he said yes. He just doesn't know how to get the money out yet.
which I can easily like talk to him about because GMU has a pretty explicit process for that, and it's pretty safe. Like I'm not going to run off with this check. So if they do that, they get rights to a talk. That being said, he's a Patel employee, so I don't know what they're going to do with that. Like if you're already doing 3 talks, they might just say that's sufficient. But if not, there's going to be a Patel talk. We threw an olive branch to, if you've heard of Kudu Dynamics, they've been talking to a lot of people on campus. We threw an olive branch to that guy because he's been pretty nice, and he's been really useful with our club. So we said, if you want to come in and give a talk, feel free. He knows, and he's also very technical, and he knows what we do here, so he would stay on topic. PricewaterhouseCooper guy in basic, probably. He was extremely enthusiastic and just generally all around nice, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you're a nice enough person, you get what you want, and we were like, he's a cool guy, he's cool to work with, so we'll throw him a bone and see how he is talking. Also wouldn't be terrible for like company student org interaction, so on the board, Kudu, Pricewaterhouse, Patel. I doubt Grim's gonna want to talk, and our board's pretty full anyway. Chris, Chuck. That's what we got going. It's not going to be me and Paul standing there the whole year like it was last year. The ask for booze, if you're curious, is $1,000 to cover CCDC registration and shirts, just for full disclosure. Booze Allen did a CTF yesterday. Club came through in pretty good numbers. I mean, percentage-wise, like half of the people who were there were in our club. What are you laughing about? Like, I'm curious.
This is my place.
You got like 4th, right?
No, 10.
10th. Well, there were 50 people. That's not bad. Come on.
Foundational group? It's like a quiz.
It was like a total quiz. No, but like some of those people were like sneaky good. Like the 3rd place guy, I looked up his info. He's like a PhD candidate with the cryptography research group here. Like some of those guys were like sneaky ridiculous. I don't know how he didn't. I'm not going to go into that. Yeah.
What type of questions did they ask?
So it was super quizzy. It was like, what certifications make sense if Bob gets hacked and his credit cards got stolen? What certifications could he get in the future that could like prevent this? Then there were ones about basic networking. There were some PCAPs, packet capture files, that you had to analyze. There was one Bluetooth one. I know the answer, but I couldn't actually execute on it. It was a Bluetooth log file that you had to carve a picture out of. And that picture presumably had the flag. When I actually carved it, it was just a transparent picture. But I'm assuming that's how you solved. That was like as elaborate as it got. Like other than that, it was pretty much quizzy. Some reversing, but I didn't even touch them, and I got the highest score and I didn't even touch them, so I would be shocked if like a lot of people there touched them.
These were all Windows binaries too.
They were all Windows binaries. There was one that wasn't, and you didn't need to reverse it. Like it was like strings would solve it. A couple brute forcing, a lot of hashes, but I don't think anybody touched them because they literally could not crack it in those 2 hours. That was an absurd problem for a 2-hour competition.
Well, if you bring your gaming PC.
Yeah. No, even then, like you have 2 hours to crack. It was a Linux standard hash password.
Were you supposed to throw them online to like Hash Killer or something?
Now, one you could have. One, it wasn't the design of the problem, but you literally Google the MD5 because there was it was like, oh, it's in the PCAP somewhere in this network transmission. Like it's a list of strings, and one of the strings is the MD5. If you Googled the MD5, fun fact, it was a past Booz Allen CTF. They recycled a lot of problems. Not all of them got write-ups. Like that one only got a write-up. If you Googled it, the password was like cracked, and that was the flag. I got first, Paul got second. After that, so third was like some cool crypto guy. I don't know. We reached out to him. He's busy. Like he is literally working on his PhD, so he's like, I can't work on this right now. And we were like, fair enough. After that, it was a lot of Mason CC members. Yeah, it went pretty well. Top prize, $100 Amazon gift card. Second place, $50. Third place, $25. So they did.
Rewards for that one? I thought it was a free one.
I thought it was chill too, and in hindsight, I looked stupid because I was wearing an Amazon T-shirt, and they handed me an Amazon gift card, and I was like, I didn't even notice it until the career services lady who was running it had the booth next to us today, and she was like, you look like a shill, and I was like, oh, all right. And then, like, just to add to it, she was like, oh, we'll tweet about your club, it'll be great, and it was like, we're at the fair. @Mason Comp Cyber, and it's just a picture of the atrium, like we're not even in it. Like social media engagement, great.
Jacob and I would have competed if we knew there was money.
Oh, none of us did. Me and Paul were just like, we'll get top 2 because we can't be the CTF club and get pwned. Like that would be a bad look. I low-key for a while stashed on Paul, I'm not gonna lie. Like I stashed like 10 flags, and then he was like sitting pretty, and then I jumped to 4th, and then I jumped to 1st, because 4th is off the scoreboard. So I was kind of a dick about that for a little while, but it's fine.
Well,
There was like an hour and a half where he could have caught up if he wanted to. So I don't think he was taking it too seriously. Literally, the prizes were like, in hindsight, we were saying the prizes for the CTF yesterday.
It's like 150
Yeah,
something.
25 for Amazon. We didn't realize that at all. And then they were like, here are the prizes. And we were like,
So did you guys actually win something?
I got 100, Paul got 50.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was in an Amazon shirt too, and they were like, here's an Amazon card, and I'm like, oh. That's our new logo. I swear this is our last logo change, because we've changed 3 times in like a semester. Was it Jacob's girlfriend worked on it? Jacob Roby's a member. His girlfriend did it. So that's our logo. In the future, you won't see this exact slide template, you'll see the actual logo, but I wrote the slide template before. I wrote the slides before the template came in. So yeah, we're looking at getting shirts. That would be the logo that would be on the shirts. That's mainly why we did the switch, because we were like, we need something with permanence, because if we wanted to switch a semester from now, those shirts would look old. So we wanted to pick one and stick to it. Also, in case you're wondering, the first logo everybody knew was trash, but I put it out because nobody would just submit a logo. So I was like, if I make our club a really shit logo, somebody's got to step forward and be like, here's a decent logo. So that's how we got the second logo we got. And then this one was actually good, and we were like, cool. Part of growing. If you have our VM by any chance, I recognize a lot of people in this club don't. I will put it again in general today. It is Kali VM with some modifications. Feel free to run meeting next, and it literally downloads like the artifacts we have today, the tools we're using today. If you do not, at your absolute own risk, preferably only do it in Kali, you could run this command, which, as root, which we're not responsible if something breaks. So, because this is what it does in the script, but the reason it actually matters is because we know what we're sending to you when we send you the VM. We have no idea what your environment's like when you're just running this raw. So we're specifically targeting forensics with problems here. It's the CSAW CTF is this weekend, so we're talking about CSAW problems. What are we calling forensics? What we're calling, this is one of the few categories, in my opinion at least, with CTFs, where it's like there's CTF forensics, and then there's real world forensics. While the things are applicable in real world, it's like, at least with real world forensics, they do more system forensics, as opposed to like looking at individual files, just because that's not compatible with regular competition. So looking at files in an unexpected fashion, looking at them very carefully, looking at them very thoroughly is the short, non-technical way of what we're doing here. Specifically in the CTF context, because we are a cybersecurity club. So you gotta have theories, you gotta, when you get a file, regardless of what file type is, you have to think of the different ways you could read that content. Whether it's gonna be with pictures, looking at different, there's literally been ones where it's like, the red, green, blue value is slightly shifted and they literally wrote the flag right there and nobody was the wiser because people were running Linux commands like strings and all that like dump ASCII output and all that doesn't actually help you if you're viewing the file. Because it's not like, yeah. So think of every way you could possibly view the file and every way you could possibly extract information from it. Steganography problems are often lumped into forensic categories in CTFs. And expect obfuscation of some degree. Don't expect the flag to just be sitting in a JPEG. Expect some obscure compression or encryption scheme at least to be before you actually see the flag. It's got to be like at least multiple steps. That's how every CTF ends up, unless it's a super beginner one. So obscure problem examples. We have these two, but I have other ones that I didn't explicitly make slides for because I know how much time we would have. Evidence.zip is from CSAW 2016. It's sort of conventional, but not really. Watchword was a weird one and it had a high point value and was in 2016. And we have another one from CSAW 2015 finals, and I think we might have a fourth one, but I doubt we'll have time for that. Also of note, this is comparative to our other talks. This is more sit and watch than our other talks have been in the past. But if you want to follow along with whatever your setup is, CSAW 2016, write up evidence.zip on Google, bring up whatever the artifacts were. These are very public problems. Everybody posts this stuff in hindsight, which is really like I just reversed the write-ups for this presentation. So evidence.zip. I found the zip, this is the actual problem description. I found the zip file that should have evidence about someone cheating, but for some reason everything is broken. Zip error, nothing to do. So I'm gonna poll the audience a couple times in this presentation. Plus, yeah, so everybody. I pointed at you because you have CTF experience, so I feel like you would know. So zip breaks, what different ways could you view data for it?
Text editor, bin block, file, strings.
And then like what metadata would you probably expect from it? Like as far as zips go?
I would Google how zips are set up.
That's fair. That's just how a lot of people would do it. So it's just strings. You don't need to know what this says line by line, but basically no dice, just a bunch of garbled text. I specifically scoped it to bracket, but it was garbled text throughout. I didn't want to have an even larger screen of text. But basic strings commands and stuff that just brought up random ASCII from it didn't do anything. Metadata seems normal. This is the metadata from it. Zip info was a command, just a general breakdown of the zip file. And then there was some, as you started scrolling down on the metadata, some suspicious stuff started coming about the zip file, like extra bytes, well, missing bytes. And the CRC value, was it cyclic redundancy check or something? It's to verify it's actually right. Was like A and stuff, which is not what you would necessarily expect. And if those values were manipulated, it would make sense why the zip was corrupt, because then it's not able to verify its contents. So, now we have a ton of zips. You got bytes here, and then after a while they just string off into A. So where would you go from there? Do you have any guesses on where this is headed? Anybody?
It's not a zip.
Well, Like
I think
specifically
that's-
with the CRC values, do you have any? Okay, so there were two valid solve strategies. One's cleaners, one is faster. Basically just asked if anybody has any ideas. So you pull them out, you concat them all together. So you add them all together in one string. And they made simple hex. You take the hex, you convert it from hex to normal text, and it was the flag. So the flag was literally embedded as the CRC values of the zip.
And the A's were just there to kind of notice that, hey, nothing else is here.
Or padding, yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of doubled as padding and that. Because I think they needed that many CRCs just the way zips work. So it was like padding and pretty obvious. So that was zip info. That was one of the more normal ones, honestly, from the write-ups, but still a little weirder. Watchword. So the last one was 150 points in this competition. This one was 250. Watchword is a synonym for password, pretty much. Yeah. And the file you were provided was powpow.mp4, which, again, if you're curious about following along, CSAW 2016, write-ups powpow.mp4. You would literally get a Git download link to it, which, in case anybody's wondering, pretty much all the write-ups are on GitHub. This is how people like distributing them. But pretty much immediately, this is a tool called Media Info. It has a command line version and a GUI version. For aesthetic purposes, I just screenshotted the GUI version. The movie name is literally a base 64 string. For those of you, like with experience comes the ability to just look at it and go, oh, that's probably base 64. But it has to do with A, the character set they're using, and B, very frequently, not always, they'll have equal signs at the end as padding. If it's the certain, I think it's like of 8. I think if it's literally 4. So if it's literally of 4 bytes or whatever, it won't have, like it could be perfect and not need any padding, in which case it wouldn't have equal signs, so that's not perfect. But usually I see equal signs. Immediately base 64, so you decode the title of the movie, and it was a link to the steghide tool, steghide.sourceforge.net. Paul goes over this, and he loves doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's basically a tool for hiding data in JPEGs, steganography, steg, hide. Yeah. I would recommend having it ready if you're doing a CTF because I've seen it in a multitude of problems. So steghide only supports JPEGs. Keeping that in mind. Foremost is a tool that you use to extract other files from like parent file. So like if somebody threw a Word document at the end of a picture, the picture would still render, but you would want to take the Word document out of it. Foremost is a quick and easy way to just say foremost that file, and it'll dump whatever other files it finds in that file. It's not perfect. Like I think if you run it on a zip, it'll just return the zip. It's not like it'll unzip it or anything.
Binwalk does a good job of unzipping stuff and uncovering stuff.
Okay, so people love Binwalk. I like both. I like if Foremost works, I use it. If Foremost doesn't work,
Binwalk gets hung up if it has a bunch of data it can't read. It won't pull out the other things because it thinks it parsed them wrong.
yeah. Another thing people love doing is Scalpel. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's Foremost, but it's like a power user Foremost. And you can specifically set what files you want to carve out. For instance, Foremost wouldn't carve out 7-zip archives, and there was a CTF problem in the finals of 2015, I think, that you had to scrape out a 7-zip file. That, like, if you Scalpel, you supply the config, and you can specifically uncomment the 7-zip directive, and it'll scrape it out.
Could you DD it out of there too?
Probably. I don't know.
It's
It's
it is.
Yeah, it's the config is literally just what magic bytes to look for to carve out. So, basic usage wise, Foremost, you run it. You get an output directory. It panics if you already have an output directory, but it'll tell you. You go to the output directory. You have an audit log, and then you have what it actually pulled out of it, which was an MOV and a PNG. You go to the PNG. It's sitting there. It pulled a PNG out of the file. Interestingly enough, I couldn't just use the convert command, which is like an easy, lazy way to convert between formats in Linux. It wasn't clean, and I figured it was stripping data or something. In the write-up, it's everybody used STPIC, which is, I guess, a more forensically sound way to convert image files. So they use that, and you pipe it directly to your new file name. So
What do the D and I commands do there?
I is input because I screwed that up. D, I'm not sure.
What's decent for?
I'm not sure. It's what everybody used, so I used it. I was like low-key slightly rushed for this presentation. It's fine. So you run it, then you run steg hide with the password. So not only is password an obvious password, but going back to the beginning, watchword is a synonym for password. So you got multiple things pointing to the password of password. And you should be using steg hide because they explicitly pointed at it. Reveal a file called base64.txt.
So you guess the password?
You guess the password, which is password.
Oh.
So I mean, if you can't do that, come on. It was too many characters and it was messy. I guess I missed a slide. Sorry, but the key bit here is it had miscellaneous characters, like I don't know, exclamation point or something. So it couldn't have been base 64. If it has a larger character set, it would make sense that it's a larger base. So base 85 was next on the list. Did it in Python, base 85 decode, read base64.txt, first line. Strip out any spaces and stuff because that was an issue on the first couple runs. And after decoding from base 85, it gave you the flag. So that was like a higher point value one in CSAW, at least qualifiers.
Are there base 85 decoders online too?
It was tricky. I knew I couldn't find a native Linux base 85 decoder that was like remotely available to install by default.
Okay.
I can't really speak for base 85 online. Everybody used Python. Like I read multiple write-ups for each of these problems, and everybody was like using Python. And then, so first of all, does anybody have any questions about what we've gone over so far? Yes.
Yeah, so I just didn't hear you. I usually figure out what base to look for.
So, like, you might have a better conceptual understanding of this, but if you have a larger base, it would make sense that you would have a larger character set available to that base.
So you could brute force the set, so you could do 64, 65, 67.
That's not even necessary, since the library supports, and like all the major libraries support, like 16, I guess 32, 64, 85, like 128. So you literally could step straight back up to 185 if you did a little research. Yeah. It would be bigger than 64 for sure, though.
A lot of this is usually just guessing until you see the word flag.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Which is what we did in the last CTO we did. We got the flag, but inside was, just jumpers. We didn't know that was actual flag. We're guessing inside had to be some like actual string like that. Actually makes sense.
Oh, the veneer cipher?
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Were you talking about Cyber Fusion or whatever?
No,
The Annapolis.
Oh, Annapolis one. I got you.
It also seems like you just gotta know the tools too. Like it's just learning the tools.
A lot of it comes with experience, and if you want to catch up on that kind of thing, they have write-ups everywhere. So you could literally go over how the last CSAW was solved. I feel like that's a quick and easy way to speed yourself up. Obviously, there are differences in the real world versus CTFs and how you approach things, but I guess conceptually the main reason of it is because you're expecting to see something in a CTF, whereas in the real world you're just going through a procedure. I don't know. There's a couple of things.
so checklist for forensics and stuff.
I think Paul has a basic one, but I mean, advanced is everybody had their own flavor how they wanted to approach a problem, and I kind of appreciated that. I didn't want everybody to approach a problem the same way because then it's useless having different skill sets. Totally off the topic, but I said Cyber Fusion. We're probably going to be able to control that roster
That's what.
this coming year, Cyber Fusion, because Dr. Rouse came to me today and was like,
Oh, so
it's looking like we're going to give you guys more like leeway on this.
good. Because last year was like.
I mean, last Cyber Fusion was an in-person thing the governor's office ran.
Yeah.
And you can speak to it some if you want.
Yeah, so I was there. So it was the first ever like Cyber Fusion. There was no, so it was held under like the order of the governor.
So is it a CTF?
Yeah, so it was also, it's like a 2-day, event. So one day you go in, there's a job fair, basically a bunch of, well, not even like a lot of companies, but the big ones, like Novus, Miter, Northrop, basically most of the government contractor was there. They there basically to hire you. PwC was there, that's why they was like interested in us.
Yeah, it was the same guy from Cyberfusion who emailed me.
Yep. So, yes, the Virginia Tech guy, basically they run it. So a lot of they created, so, and they also have a team who competed, so I was like, I don't see how's that fair, but, yeah, so we came like fourth or something, but most of the challenges are pretty easy. Although some of it is, basically you have to think about really like super detail, like real detail. A lot of them you can just read it with brute force, like read a bunch of like think by brute force. It's so easy. Yeah, I mean, I think last year was held VMI, so everything travel wise, paid for, so that's sweet. I mean, they hire like a van to ride like a bunch of us down, and they give us like a document that you have to be 18 above to enter the van. I was like, what the fuck?
To be fair, they do that with like the org too.
Everything.
Every time I register a room or something, there's a disclaimer that says you're all 18, right?
Yeah.
I remember Circuit checked that box saying no at one point,
Yeah,
Just
just do waivers, just in case.
and it was at one point they checked it just because it was like, oh, freshmen might be under 18, and it was at the beginning of the semester. And like, yeah, they got met with that email where it was like, you're gonna need waivers and all this, and it was like, wait, it's literally for meeting 1. And they were like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun.
So we're gonna have a little more autonomy over, because they send a limited number of people to that. What was it, like 5 or something?
No, it was about 10. Because there's also the observer and competitor. So I was like, although my tag is say observer, I was competing. So
Yeah, they did it based on multiple factors, but 2 of the large factors, they did a referral system to a degree, but then they did a hard requirement on GPA and credits. Yeah, they did.
no, I'm like 3.0. Everyone I talked to was like 4.0.
Now I'm telling you, they did a credit cap because that's why they couldn't send me, because they had a credit cap. Yeah. So guess who's bitter about that? Yeah, they did a credit cap because I'm like a life story. I'm like a little behind, so I'm technically not a junior this semester. Next semester I'm easily a junior. So when they evaluated me, I was behind. So they were only sending juniors and seniors per credit. So then they did a credit eval. So at that exact moment, I was technically a sophomore, and then dropping off the list. And they did a GPA limit. They did do a GPA limit. 3.0 is really not scraping the bottom of the barrel at Mason. So they did do a GPA
I mean,
limit.
Joan got me in pretty sure.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. They did do a referral system, and it wasn't like random, like, oh, you have a 3.8, you're in. That's not how they did it. But they did have like major academic requirements, and they're lifting those.
This year we got control of that, so
Yeah.
sweet.
They're basically like, how about instead of filtering people based on GPA and credits, not picking but filtering based on that. We filter with your club and we figure out who knows their shit in your club. So that kind of gives us more authority over it.
It's quite fun. They gave us a shitty hotel.
You said they gave you a shitty hotel? You get what you get.
I mean, it's a lot shittier than the tech one. So.
Well, the tech one was BS. But we went to tech to do a summit, and as much as I appreciate them paying for our hotel, they put like 6 dudes in one room, and it was like a 3-person room, which is just cheating. So in this problem, this was finals 2015. This is the part where I'm like, I don't know how much time we would have. Evidently 20 minutes, oh my. They gave you a disk image, and you stepped through it with whatever you want. Whether that was, I bet Foremost would work on it. They did test disk. I bet Benlock would work on it. They basically stepped through a disk image to find files. Of value, they found 2 files, flag.png.encrypted, and it's not easily visible, but rand_somewhere.rb, which is a Ruby Ruby code.
We can just forget the problem at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. Fun fact, we ran a CTF like over, it was pretty minor, but we ran it like at the beginning of the year. And the number of attempts on the Python versus the Ruby one, it's just depressing. I was like, why did I even write the Ruby one? Everybody attempted the Python one, like one person attempted the Ruby one. But I'm gonna do another question. Even if you don't know Ruby, it's valid.
It's fairly easy to read too.
Yeah, it's pretty readable language. Rails, Ruby.
Don't know about that.
Alright, now that's pretty readable. Alright, so here's the routine they used to encrypt it. Can anybody tell me what is wrong with this? Somebody, I'm like not taking no for an answer. I know somebody in this room can tell me what is wrong with this.
We just need a second to read it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. This is the setting up routine. This is encrypting. This is self-explanatory. Hmm?
The key is just seated from the key length of 42.
Hold on.
Or,
Key length is 42.
I'm using that to see right, what the key is.
Well, so hold on. They're making basically an object, a randomizing object. That's rand. And then there's the seed is seed equals that. And then they're saying make a 42 byte key using that object.
Didn't we have a timestamp when the file was created? So then that would be the time.
So yeah, so you, ideally in a random generator, you would not use time as a seed, because you might know that. In this case, you do. Time is the ultimate seed in this, and the seed being like the truly random number you're using. It's not random if it's the time. Real world example with that Equifax breach. Apparently, if you freeze your credit with them, the PIN was literally the time you froze it. Like if you froze it like September, wait, I don't want to count. March 3rd, like at 11:15 a.m. Your PIN was literally 0303 11:15, and that was your PIN to unfreeze your credit. Don't use this as a. They shouldn't be able to break in, see the code, and then be able to reverse your random generator. So that's how they encrypted it. So you feed it the time, which since it was a disk image, it actually did have it. I can see this being an issue in a competition if you're moving the file all over the place and you're like handing it off to each other.
On that note of Equifax, I heard that if you sign up for their protection, you forfeit all rights to sue.
So it's tricky. They said in it you forfeit rights to sue related to like the parent identity protection company, not related to the cybersecurity breach.
Oh.
And then on top, and then on top of that, it wasn't clear, and the New York AG like came down like heavens on them, and then they made it abundantly clear that that's what was happening. Is it still BS that you have to waive something? Yes. Is it arguably illegal? Yes. But yeah, life hack: just don't have credit. That's how you solve that problem.
Everything in cash.
Everything.
Literally, just have a debit card. But I can see it like there's so many problems when you step through Reddit where you're like, oh, that didn't sound crazy hard for like the lead hacker problem. But when you're like working with multiple people and you pull this flag.png encrypted, I throw it on a USB, go, Chuck, I need you to work on this. I'm already doing a problem. And we give it to Chuck. Chuck looks at it. Timestamp's changed because I moved it to the USB. So he doesn't have this November 13th, 2015 timestamp. So there's a lot of stuff you can screw up integrity-wise while you're doing a competition. This is a great example. November 2015, you seed it, pretty expected results. Once you seed it, actually, here's another step, sorry. You seed it, you run the script, you get, that's pretty much it. They just got really weird with their routine. You run the script, and that's the PNG. Your mom is so fat she can't store files larger than 4 gigabytes, and that was the flag name.
Michael, let's go up a little bit. Just for the script.
Yeah, this was the script they used, but the reason I skipped past it was because like they were like, here's the modified one, but in the original one, there's literally a decryption routine.
Yeah.
So I don't know if when they did the problem, they just wrote their own routine,
On the copy and paste.
but they probably could have just used that.
So
But they wrote their own routine.
So all you had to do is type in the same exact time into any sort of Ruby script that using the rand thing, you could probably get the same exact password.
It's tricky. There's multiple, like the fact that they use CBC and the fact that they did a 20-bit, 42-byte key.
Well, if you copy those things too.
If you copy those to the letter and you did it in like Python, you'd be fine.
Okay.
Or another Ruby script, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
I don't see why.
I'm just wondering how the rand worked in Ruby compared to like any other language.
Just
You
an
should
object.
see from dev-ran just like you would in C or Python. So you should pull it the same way that you get any other pseudo-random number.
And as long as you're picking the actual cipher right, it should be language agnostic. So, am I wrong there?
No, you're
Like
right.
CBC, 256 CBC and Ruby should,
But like, unless it's implemented wrong in a different language.
which is their own problem, really.
That's why we don't use PHP.
140 and not sure.
I low-key use PHP, and the only time I've ever actually in real life had to use PHP is when somebody wrote shitty insecure PHP and I had to evaluate it. So that's its own little market.
Is that the flag?
That was the final flag. They called it flag.png. Wow, there you go. That was the full flag. Ideally, when you're doing competitions, it's far more obvious that it's the flag. Like it's CSAW bracket that and bracket.
Yeah.
Good competitions set that format. CSAW with good competitions. That was an unfair thing to say.
You can also kind of break. Sometimes you can break it when like I was doing one and I got the flag name, like the part that actually says the name itself, and it kind of makes everything else easier. Like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm doing things right.
And if it's almost a disadvantage for them when they're like, oh, don't worry, it'll start with CSAW bracket. Because then, like, instead of actually doing the problem, you just, like, hunt the shit out of the term CSAW bracket.
Sometimes you need some of those. I think like last year for Eco Party, there was a good timing problem, or whatever, where if you sent the right bit, it would take longer to respond back. And Jacob had to solve that one by brute forcing the entire thing.
Oh, I read that.
Yeah, you remember that one?
Just show how easy it is to pull up.
I think it was Eco Party. It might have been.
Yeah, so raise your hand if you'd be interested in competing in CSAW this weekend. It's like, I'm not expecting you to be like hauling ass all weekend. Just,
I'm not gonna be there over time though.
no, of course not. It's like 48 hours this weekend, so like you wouldn't be there. But
I'm not even gonna show up.
that's fine.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was like 7 or something, yeah.
If I didn't already have plans this weekend, I'll be.
No, that's fine, yeah. It's online. You don't have to physically be anywhere. So if you're chilling for an hour, feel free to log in. Again, unlimited team. It's going to be a public Slack channel in our chat. So just join in the topic. This is how we usually run it. It's a chat per competition. You join the chat. The literal username and password is in the topic. And you just log in and solve what you want. Would love it if as you're solving, you're talking. Even if you don't ask any questions, if you're like, I'm working on this problem and I'm understanding it, oh, I got this bit, oh, I got, because then if nothing else, what I do is I archive them, don't delete them, and then if somebody really, really wants to step back into that and go, oh, I want to see how Chris solved this problem in Eco Party, we can go back to that channel and check it. Or new people can even do that. That's not really advertised, but new people could totally just go in and look at archive channels and it's our past competitions. The reason I don't advertise it is because it's largely like me, you, and like somebody else talking, and if it's just us talking and you're scrolling through it, like this is the average based in CC competition, like all the basic people would bug out, so, yeah. That's all we have presentation-wise. I don't want to drag it out anymore. Ordinarily, we would have a hands-on component. Today, we do not. So, I highly recommend people get the VM. I will bump that in chat now. And you're welcome to chill out and talk to each other. That is Amar's G number. Whoops. You are welcome to,
That's who's?
Amar's. It's the second time I put it on screen.
I thought you said mine, and I'm like, really?
No. So you can chill out, you can talk to each other, or you can leave. That's all we got today. Sorry if it was shorter than expected.
Question.
What's up?
Any ideas, any like recommendations for Linux
My
VMs?
topic is advanced too.
Like not Linux VMs, like actual,
I still don't know
like
if
a,
I include it or
you
not.
know, Flash or a VM or whatever, what is it called? Image from VM. I mean, like any good VM client.
To solder.
For Linux?
Do you know
I mean,
if
that's
you
because
want to
oh,
solder, you have to
VMware
go
Player
and
works on
certify.
Linux. I don't know if Workstation does, but when VMware Player was a thing, it worked.
You have to get fucking certified to solder.
I'm just digging.
For the record, these are our future topics. This is going to be more drawn out. Frankly, I have a quiz tomorrow, so I was kind of like going crazy on this one. This is going to be obscure problems. That might change because we've basically already done this talk with Hackathon and more. Pending guest, we are asking, I want to say this is Kudu. I think this is where we asked the Kudu guy. This is low-key intentionally nerfed so people would go to this because this is probably where PwC is going to be. And we didn't want to make a really exciting talk the same day as the PwC guy. We didn't want to piss him off. But that's going to be like live attacking boxes over a VPN, which actually is kind of exciting for putting. No, it's fine.
Do some people you have to hack into the website as well, so that's.
Yeah, you have to hack to get your invite code, so that's
Yeah.
fun. Hardware hacking with Chuck. Shellcode with Chris. Holding this in case Patel wants one, other than Chris. Format string with Chris. There's a month-long CTF in November. Same guys who wrote, what was it, RE2, what's it called?
Router 2?
Router 2. Same guys who wrote that. It's a reverse engineering heavy CTF. We would just compete on that day. DDP and ASLR bypass with Chris. Then the last day I'm reserving because I don't want it to be business as usual. I'd like to do a chill meeting or something. Also, we're considering October 21st playing War Games. I'm finishing up the budget requests on that, but as people who have experienced other student orgs or even ours before realize, nothing is set until GMU stamps the papers, so. It's going to be co-budgeted with me and Picture Hackers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, how do you guys expect to be doing the RH Me 3? Because I thought the qualifications were over.
Were they?
Yeah.
I thought I saw it on the.
Oh, shit.
I thought, like, because I was trying to do one of the, I just finished one and I was way too late because, like, I got on it way on board. Way late. So,
Well,
Michael, you fucked up.
There are other things we can be doing. There are other competitions. I mean, in all likelihood, we'd pick these guys up by then. These guys do monthly ones, and it'd probably be better than this. So, yeah, if you want a sticker, feel free to take one. We might pick them up as a company.
as a
Me
company.
getting
Like as a partner.
I think they put, like, the bootloader and everything on GitHub for the 2016 one. I think they did.
Yeah.
'Cause that was hard.
Alright. I also want to bring this into attention is that on the 21st, right, October 21st, beside the movie thing, we also have an in-person CTF in Maryland. So most people, which one's that? Basically, the one that we compete, but another one, they hold another one, basically.
Oh, Hack Fortress?
No.
Half Fortress.
It's like the Hack the Crab one or whatever. But it's different branded, different competition.
Yep.
Same people.
So, so if you guys wanna go to the CTF one, it's 10 a.m. to 4, and there's an hour drive there. We don't expect you to drive there. You can carpool with us, but it's gonna be an hour drive, so just meet us like 9 a.m. So I don't know, is that too early for you guys? Meet us on
When is
work
it?
day.
What is it?
October 21st, it's a Saturday. So it's 10 to 4, they give us food and stuff. And their challenges, if you interested in taking the LCP, these are gonna be good challenges for you guys, because they literally just, the guy who made the challenges, like OSCP, he focused mostly at the challenges gonna be like
So there
OSCP
were
like,
two sections. There was
Yeah.
one where you had to break into a Wi-Fi.
or you
And-
break into yourself, but it's,
Well, your own team's Wi-Fi, they set up for you. It's like
Yeah.
a web thing. You had to crack that, get into that, and then you
Yeah.
had access to more problems.
yep,
But they also had a Jeopardy style one
Yeah.
where they had a couple reverse engineering and coding ones.
yeah.
They actually
And,
set them up wrong, and you could run strings on it, and you didn't have to do
Oh my
anything.
God.
Yeah, we have like what, and we have like 5 for our VR guys, and we just sitting there like, dude, we don't know what to do. So we solved every other guy in like 10 minutes. or every time we saw like 10 minutes, we just sit behind out there, we don't know what to do.
Yeah, so be wherever you want to be on that day.
Yeah.
I will be in the theater watching war games, preferably with a turkey sub and ham and potato chips. So whatever you guys want.
Wait, what time is it? 4 p.m.
It's like noon to like the booking is like noon to 4, but like the
Okay.
movie you'll probably pick up at like 1. I don't know.
So it's overlap, so choose whatever you want.
Is War Games free to show, or do you have to get the rights?
I'm working on the budget request. I already have a quote for it, so it's all in order. That's basically what I'm gonna probably ask of you is,
Yeah.
we're probably gonna buy the movie rights, and you're probably gonna do food and stuff.
Okay.
Because he's Patriot Actors.
Yeah, exists.
Yeah, so that's probably how it's gonna work. Fun fact, in case anybody's curious, licensing out war games to an audience of 49 is $350. So that's fine. GMU pays for everything.
It's a lot.
Yeah, for like a 1980s movie, it's kind of rough. I mean, you guys did. Circuit did like Ex Machina. It was probably like double that, right?
You got to go. He got to go to that.
Up to 20 people maybe in that.